How do I say goodbye?
So Flacco, ASAP Rocky, is in a Swedish prison right now. Prison. I didn't even know I had that. I didn't even know I couldn't say that right until just now. So ASAP Rocky's in prison, and the world is outraged, and I understand the outrage because Flacco is just like one of those guys. You look at him, you just seem like a cool dude, man. Like you're not doing nothing, you're not bothering no one. You're getting your money, you're getting your bag. You got women. They're calling you beautiful. You're not problematic. What really could go wrong with this guy? Who could he piss off? I wasn't the biggest fan of testing, but you still made me happy just seeing your face and hearing your voice. ASAP Rocky is in Sweden right now. I guess he's on tour. He's performing, doing a couple shows over there. And, I guess on the way from one of his plays or a play, these two guys are following both him and his crew. That consists, I think, of maybe 4 people in total, including Rocky. So I think it's like maybe 5, maybe 6 people. I might be wrong on that. But basically, these two guys are allegedly upset over some broken headphones, right? Maybe in an altercation prior, or maybe a scuffle or a brush up, or in some way they feel that ASAP Rocky and his crew are responsible for their broken headphones. This causes these two random, odd, weird people to start following ASAP Rocky and his crew down multiple streets. ASAP Rocky stops and confronts the two, and the entire crew confront them and say, hey man, look, we don't want an issue. We don't want to put hands on you, because if we put hands on you, us being black in this country, what's the outcome? We'll probably get fucking arrested. Guess what happened? They got fucking arrested. However, this is the situation that people are kind of upset about, because ASAP Rocky has video footage of himself trying to resolve the situation before it escalates into anything violent or physical. He's got video evidence of himself trying to de-escalate the situation and calm it down and resolve it. In all honesty, if someone accidentally broke your headphones, the next thing you're going to do, you're probably not going to throw it in their face, but after being followed and then confronting them and still being followed, these women on the side tell ASAP Rocky and friends that they were basically kind of catcalling them, eyeing them, and touching them while following them prior. So it seems like that gave him more motivation and the crew more reason to go and confront these two men and kind of prevent them from doing it to anyone else, because it seemed to be like a trend of things that they were doing. But ASAP Rocky and crew ended up in prison.
Ain't no sunshine where she goes.
They're singing tunes in the jail at this very moment. And the situation is awful right now because ASAP Rocky is missing out on money. He's missing his shows. And that sucks, because that's the whole reason he's there in the first place. Here's where the confusion for the other side is, and here's where the lack of confusion is for me. Because I took the time and brushed up on the Swedish laws, and I looked at the crime rates for the most recent year that I could actually get information about, and I found some pretty interesting details. In the video for ASAP Rocky that he uploaded kind of for his defense, and also other witness videos that were uploaded to show the altercation and what had happened, you have a situation where these two men, even though they were following ASAP Rocky, are at a clear physical disadvantage, and they were at a point where they were on the ground. Once they entered that state, when they were on the ground and helpless in the defensive position, you then give up your right to self-defense. And Sweden, if I am correct, is not a stand your ground country, and I don't think they have many areas in Sweden where you can stand your ground. If they do, someone please correct me. But this isn't a situation that causes for stand your ground laws to be applied in the first place. This is a self-defense situation in which you feel you can apply the exact same force that's being applied to you. Unfortunately, these guys didn't really apply much force for the situation to have escalated the way it did. And I am completely on ASAP Rocky's side, but that's unfortunate because you can't always retaliate if there's nothing that's actually happened to you. When it comes to self-defense, you have to understand that you can only go as far as the person has gone as far on you. You can only go about as far, you can only give what you got. Okay, so if someone punches you in the face, you can't pull out a gun. That's not fair. I know, it's not fair. Life isn't fair. In a real world, in many states in America, if you wanted to, someone punches you in the face, and there are a lot of stand your ground states here, you could theoretically just take your gun out and pop them. Shit, that's kind of what happened in Florida. Florida had a stand your ground law passed in like what, 13, 14 years ago. And many people's problem with the stand your ground law is that it encourages this mentality where you can act first and then question everything and get the details of the situation afterwards. People who are for this law tend to think that it's better to be safer than sorry. And the safe method is shoot this bitch in the face and then be sorry about it later. Before that law was passed, there was this law in Florida called, I think it was the Castle Doctrine. And this allowed you to, as long as you were in the privacy of your own home, defend yourself, your family, and whoever stayed there at any cost possible if there were an intruder, right? The stand your ground law basically makes the entire world or the entire state of Florida your castle. So that if someone is kind of intimidating you or you feel like a threat is imminent, you then have the right to take whatever action you deem necessary in order to defend yourself. But again, with that law, no one has to technically touch you. Again, self-defense is only self-defense when you are defending yourself. And if these two guys that were following you, unfortunate as it may be, because you weren't in the wrong in the slightest. Over here in America, you probably could have gotten away with it. Police said stay away from these two. Those two went to the hospital, got their faces stitched up or whatever, because apparently there are some details that say something about one of them receiving some pretty critical injuries, which is why the threat of aggravated assault was there in the first place. Based off the injury level, that is what determines if the assault is aggravated or not. And if there's video evidence of multiple people wailing on these people and they're already in the feeble position, it's unfortunate, but you're no longer defending yourself when you do that. Because if these two initiated the fight by punching you or doing whatever, and then you retaliated by punching them and doing whatever, it is at that point that once the situation is there, you stop. But since they were on the ground, you're beating them, you're wailing on them, there was some broken bottle, I guess, from whatever. I mean, hey, broken bottles get broke every day, B. I'm not putting that on the team, all right? The squad didn't do nothing. And I'm only saying this because it's another country. In the U.S., I think their laws are a little bit more open when it comes to self-defense, when it comes to the interpretation of these assault cases, because our population is just so much larger. To pigeonhole everyone into this specific law of you have to only do as much that was done to you, I think is a little crazy, given that we have 350 million people living in this country, where in Sweden, I think the population is about 10 million. Now, for my research, in the year 2016, Sweden had about 85,000 assault cases that were reported. Of those 85,000, they, I believe, investigated about 75,000 of them. And of the 75,000 that were investigated, over about 5,600 are what they ended up convicting. But the people cleared of assault in that same year were just over 10,000. Now, a lot of people are hung up on the sentencing of this. Like, okay, is A$AP Rocky going to get 6 years? How long is he going to be held there? They view him as a flight risk, so he's not going to be allowed to leave the country because they think he'll leave the country if they allow him free in Sweden, which, I mean, I guess is reasonable given that they think he's the one that initiated the assault. And I don't know if him being an American citizen helps or hurts his case, but I do know that if we're going by the metric here of the Swedish assault and their crime rate for 2016, if I'm to go kind of by that rubric and say that of the 85,000 cases that were reported and the 75,000 that were investigated, 10,000 of those were thrown out. There were twice as many people cleared or found not guilty, or just cases that weren't investigated, as opposed to the 5,600 people that were convicted. So I don't know what that means for A$AP Rocky's case here. I don't know if that makes his rate higher or lower. I don't know if his chances are bigger or smaller. I would like to think that whoever is behind his prosecution is trying to make an example out of him and trying to like use this as a way to kind of propel their own career in a way. Because the prosecution, like I said, in this case, I don't think it needs to be that serious. These two were following him and his crew. They tried to de-escalate the situation. They ended up wailing on him. In most cases, you would just say, hey, man, does it need to go to the court? Does it need to? At this stage right now, given what they were doing. So, what have we learned here from A$AP Rocky's case in this situation? You're in another country and someone's following you. Get ready to fucking rumble. I know it's unfortunate for them, but you really got to know the laws and understand your position in a lot of situations, especially when you leave the country, because you don't know their laws, you don't know their prison system, you don't know how they do things. So if you get in trouble, I would assume it's extremely tough to get out of it. I mean, you can't get in a bar fight, some dude start wailing on you, then you come back the next day, start wailing on him and say, oh shit, I was just defending myself. I thought this bitch was ready for round two. You can't say that to the police, okay? It's not gonna work. And I'm not saying that's what A$AP Rocky and his crew did, but the minute those guys got on the ground, that was their cue to stop the fight. Once you go from that to all-out war and wailing on these dudes while they're on the ground, you then become the assaulter, the assaultee. the perpetrator, the Ike Turner, the Chris Brown. I'm sorry. Okay. Yeah, that's the video. ASAP Rocky and his crew. Hopefully they get, you know, this taken care of. I would like to think that they wouldn't try to do anything crazy to this dude, given that he was provoked and the situation was provoked by the victims. It is unfortunate how they ended up being the victims off some bullshit, but you know, that's what happens. As black people, as you guys as rappers, you need to learn restraint. And when things are going too far, especially when you've got video evidence, okay, you had enough wherewithal and common sense to pull out your phones and get that evidence. You gotta know that when it comes to self-defense, it's only self-defense if you are still in danger. The minute those dudes got off you and you were on them, it's a different story. But I just wanted to kind of give my 2 cents on it and kind of, if I could rationalize it in my head, and I think I kind of have. So that's how I'm feeling on it. Again, hopefully they get it together, and that's all I really got to say, man. Thank you for watching. I don't know who I was singing in the beginning, but it sounds fire.